All right, so I saw this video surfacing on Twitter today, and it did spark a lot of debate across NBA social media. Good debate that I think is happening because we are very, very close to the start of the NBA playoffs. But Marcus Morris said on First Take that he doesn't believe the OKC Thunder right now are good enough to win a title, putting the Golden State Warriors, LA Clippers, and LA Lakers above them, primarily citing a lack of experience from this OKC team as the reason behind them not being a true contender out west. And the reason this was interesting to me was because I kind of noticed and felt there's a group of people, a group of NBA fans, media pundits or whatever, that aren't ready to crown this OKC team as legit just yet, right? They're not really ready to believe in what this team has going on right now. And I get it for multiple reasons. For one, the way they've developed into what they are right now, it happened so fast. It seems really weird to think, damn, now they're really a championship contender. And there are also some other reasons that are based off of previous trends that we've seen throughout the course of NBA history. One trend is this: it is very simple. We are not generally used to seeing young teams win titles. Championship teams, on average, through the course of NBA history, are 27.9 years old. If we want to go more recent, over the last 5 seasons, the average age has ranged from 26.8 years old up to 28.6 years old. So generally, championships are won by veteran groups. I understand it why you'd be a little reluctant to think that this Thunder team can win a title because they're 24 years old on average. They are the youngest team in the NBA right now. They are 4 years below the all-time average for championship winning groups. So again, I'm not saying I'm writing off OKC for their lack of experience in their youth, but I could understand why, if you're making predictions and assumptions, I can understand why you'd not be completely ready to think that this super young group can make this deep, meaningful title run this season. Again, I'm not saying that, but I can get why some people would feel that way to a certain extent. Then we have the trend of regular season teams. We all know what a regular season team is. We've seen this so many times through the course of NBA history. Those are the teams that are performing very well in the regular season, but they get to the playoffs and it becomes a trend for them to not make these deep playoff appearances and playoff runs, not being able to win championships to show for their regular season success. So I'm going to give a few examples here. The Houston Rockets of the Harden era are a perfect example of this. They had some amazing seasons out west, even a year or two where they were like the 1 seed, but just could never get over the hump in the West. And the entire Harden era never gave us an NBA Finals appearance. Let's also think about the Atlanta Hawks through like the late 2010s when they had Jeff Teague, Al Horford, Paul Millsap, and Kyle Korver. They had a ton of seasons where they were seeded very high out east, but again, could not get over the hump. Despite 4 of those guys getting to the All-Star game, no finals appearance to show for it. Let's go all the way back to the 1990s, the Supersonics. They were a perfect example of this, one of the greatest examples of this that we have ever seen. 2 seasons in the 90s as the top seed out west and 2 seasons as the 2 seed out west, and only 1 NBA Finals appearance and no championship. So we all know that trend of teams that perform very well in the regular season tease us a bit with the idea that they're contenders and are never able to actually turn it into anything. So seeing that would make people a bit reluctant to truly believe in this OKC Thunder team as things currently stand. So those are 2 massive trends and reasons as to why I would understand why some people are a bit reluctant to buy into OKC completely as a contender just yet. And I said it earlier, to me, I do believe in this Thunder team. There are a number of reasons as to why I believe that I'm going to talk about in a second. So I'm not saying that I'm writing them off, but I can understand why some people aren't buying into this thing just yet. So here are my reasons as to why I think this OKC Thunder team is legitimate. For one, there is no active dynasty or team to beat in the NBA today. Each of those teams that I mentioned that were those regular season teams, right? Those teams that performed well in the regular season but just couldn't make anything happen in the postseason. Each of those squads ran into dynasties or powerhouses. So if we're talking about the Supersonics in the 90s, obviously they ran into Michael Jordan in 98 and that 72 win Bull squad and just couldn't capitalize and bring home a title. If we're talking about the Rockets, pretty much every year they were running into the Golden State Warriors dynasty. Despite having these amazing performances from James Harden and other guys, just couldn't get past the Golden State Warriors, which a lot of people look at as the greatest NBA dynasty, or arguably the greatest NBA dynasty ever. Or the ATL Hawks, right? I talked about them with Teague, Horford, Millsap, and Korver. Amazing regular seasons, but just could not get over LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love out east. So that's what really held those teams back. With OKC, again, there is no active dynasty right now in the NBA. I don't think there is a team to beat. I know the Celtics just won the title and I understand it, but there's no team right now that I'm looking at the same as like the Miami Heat back when they had LeBron, or obviously the Warriors back in their heyday with Curry and Durant and those guys. There's no team right now that I think is just tiers better than everybody else. And that's proven that just yet. So OKC has that advantage where you have a league that is super wide open. They are more than equipped to compete and contend in a league that is this wide open as we've ever seen it. The other reason is this is not just an amazing offensive group, but I tend to really believe in teams that are amazing on the defensive end. And right now, OKC has the best defense in the entire league. Not only do they have an elite defense, but those guys can match up very well. There's a great blend of amazing perimeter defense, and they do have size, but those guys with size like Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren are also extremely versatile. So you don't have a team that's just amazing from like a statistical standpoint with their defensive rating and things like that, but when it comes to actually matching up in a 7-game series, I think they can be a great individual game-by-game matchup for any team right now across the entire NBA. We saw it especially with what they were able to do earlier this year with the Celtics. They were able to completely shut down that team with their elite defense. Those are the two reasons why I personally buy into this OKC squad. So again, I'm not saying that personally I'm ready to write off OKC. I told you guys what I think. I think this team is legit, but given some trends through the course of NBA history and recent NBA history, I get it. I get why some people would be reluctant. I don't think it's too hot of a take to believe that OKC isn't ready just yet, especially when you look at the West right now, right? Like, I do think that there's no active dynasty, but the West is still really good. The Lakers are good with Luka and LeBron. The Warriors are really good right now with Curry and Butler. And obviously the Clippers are good if healthy because they have James Harden and Kawhi Leonard playing at an elite level, along with an amazing team defense. So I get the reluctancy, I understand it, but I do think that if there's any team that could break the trends and break off some of these things that I talked about that are kind of keeping people a little bit skeptical about them right now, it would be this OKC squad. I think they're well equipped to do it. They got the personnel, and their best player does have a ton of playoff experience. I understand OKC as a collective is very young, but SGA has been to the postseason multiple times through the course of his career, especially in his rookie year. He was on a playoff team with that Clipper squad in his year one, and they actually had a pretty entertaining and somewhat competitive first-round series against the Golden State Warriors, the defending champion Golden State Warriors. So I'm not ready to write this team off just yet. I get where the reluctancy comes, but we'll see just how good this team can end up being once we see the playoffs roll around. And look, they had a pretty solid appearance last year where they made the second round. They're going to be able to build well off of this. They've done a good job with this roster, made some solid offseason moves, and it's been showing off on the court through the regular season. Let's see just how good they can be once postseason time officially rolls around.